In this video, we're talking all about the iPhone XS Max in 2025. We're going to discuss its specs, its design, its cameras, its performance, how it compares to the latest 16 Pro Max, and overall, how this phone is holding up in 2025. So the XS Max's design is definitely a fan favorite in the Apple community, especially in the gold color. It has rounded stainless steel edges, a glossy back glass, and a vertical dual camera system. We're working with a 6.5-inch OLED 60Hz display with a peak 625 nits brightness. It's still a fantastic display. There's really only a couple drawbacks with this screen, the first of which being that fairly low 625 nit peak brightness level, as modern iPhones can get considerably brighter. This is going to be most noticeable when outdoors in direct sunlight, and also the maximum 60Hz refresh rate. This means scrolling and animations won't look as smooth as they do on newer iPhones with 120Hz ProMotion screens. I think this is made out to be a much bigger deal than it actually is, as on a phone, most people don't need an ultra-fast refresh rate. The latest 16 Pro Max's design is very much just a refined version of the XS Max's design. Of course, we have noteworthy changes like the flatter, now brushed titanium sides, a matte glass back, with an additional third ultra-wide lens, and a bigger 6.9-inch display. But it features all the same fundamental elements, just improved versions of them that have accumulated over the past 7 years. And guys, with the hundreds of login credentials that each of us juggle on a daily basis, it's important to have a secure and reliable place to manage and store all of your login information. And that's where today's sponsor, NordPass, comes in. Developed by the experts behind NordVPN, NordPass is an easy-to-use password manager built for both personal and business use that lets you securely generate, store, manage, and share passwords, credit card details, and passkeys with ease. My personal favorite feature is the password autofill functionality, which lets me instantly log into any of my accounts using Face ID on my iPhone or using Touch ID on my Mac. And one of the nicest things about NordPass's autofill is that it will only autofill your credentials on trusted sites, which will protect you from phishing attacks. NordPass also features a built-in authenticator, so there's no need to download an additional third-party app for two-factor authentication. NordPass is truly your one-stop shop for managing all of your login credentials. NordPass for Business is incredibly helpful for managing shared login credentials across employees in your organization. It has several useful features, such as the ability to enforce company-wide settings, including password policies that determine password strength and update frequency. Also, the ability to sort credentials and other important information into project-specific folders for systematic data management. It even allows you to grant temporary access to credentials which will automatically be revoked after a set period of time, and so much more. To upgrade your business's security and password management, head to nordpass.com/iDevice and use coupon iDevice to get a 14-day free trial or a 20% discount on NordPass business plans. Huge thank you to NordPass for sponsoring this video. So the XS Max's dual camera system includes a 12-megapixel main lens and a 12-megapixel telephoto lens. Photos taken with the XS Max are fine. They're not great, but they're also not bad at all. The XS Max very much offers just the basics in terms of camera capability in 2025. For typical point-and-shoot photos, it's going to do just fine. Now, if you zoom in on a photo after taking it, the difference compared to the 16 Pro Max will start to be a lot more apparent, as the XS Max's 12-megapixel photos have a lot less detail in comparison to the 24-megapixel photos the 16 Pro Max captures as a result of it having a 48-megapixel sensor. And unfortunately, since the XS Max lacks that third ultra-wide lens, we're of course not able to capture 0.5 times shots or macro shots. And the telephoto lens on the XS Max provides a 2 times optical zoom. And interestingly enough, on the 16 Pro Max, you get a 2 times optical zoom option from the main camera lens alone, thanks to it being 48 megapixels now. It's funny how the entire purpose of the telephoto lens on the XS Max has been absorbed into the higher 48 megapixel main lens on the 16 Pro Max. Times have definitely changed. And meanwhile, the telephoto lens on the 16 Pro Max gets you a closer 5 times optical zoom. And if you just totally max out the digital zoom for photos, on the XS Max you get a maximum 10 times zoom, where on the 16 Pro Max you get a much closer and sharper 25 times zoom. We also have a front-facing 7 megapixel camera on the XS Max, and front-facing photos look really surprisingly good. With not that big big of a difference in comparison to the 16 Pro Max's 12 megapixel front-facing lens. I think this is because a lot less advancements have occurred for the front cameras over the years in comparison to the back cameras, as there's just been less attention and effort put into it, as there's less need for a very high quality front camera in comparison to a back camera. And here's some 4K 60 frames per second video shot on the XS Max and on the 16 Pro Max. The XS Max does well here, however you will notice improved dynamic range and just overall improved video quality on the 16 Pro Max, of course. And if you max out the digital zoom for video on the XS Max, you'll get a maximum 3 times zoom, where on the 16 Pro Max you get a much closer 15 times zoom. So if you're a frequent concert goer who likes to record videos from afar, you will unfortunately miss out quite a bit in terms of zoom capability on an older iPhone like the XS Max here. And here's some video shot with the front-facing camera as well. The maximum quality the XS Max can capture for the front camera is 1080p at 60 frames per second, where on the 16 Pro Max it's 4K at 60 frames per second. And it should go without saying, of course, the XS Max lacks a lot of the camera advancements more modern iPhones have, such as features like night mode, photographic styles, action mode, and many more. It also lacks a lot of the modern image processing improvements like the photonic engine and deep fusion, which will help improve image quality and will create what most people would identify as a more modern looking iPhone photo. But for the basic smartphone camera fundamentals, the XS Max has enough. So the XS Max is powered by the A12 chip with 4 gigs of RAM, and considering this phone has the lowest spec requirements for iOS 18, it's not going to be the fastest iPhone out there, but it's totally usable. I've said it before and I'll say it again, the days of upgrading your iPhone just because it's too slow are far behind us. Even a chipset like the A12 from 7 years back has more than enough headroom for what you'd regularly do on a smartphone. The bigger issue at hand with older iPhones like this is the very limited lifespan for major iOS updates. The average amount of years for major iOS updates for iPhones is around 6 to 7, the 6S, 10S, and 10R being the longest supported so far at 7 years. And considering iOS 18 is the XS and XS Max's 7th major iOS version, it will very likely be the final major iOS version the XS and XS Max will get. It's possible it'll get iOS 19, but I certainly wouldn't count on it. Now, it is worth noting, even after Apple stops supporting an iPhone with their latest major iOS updates, they continue to provide essential security updates to the final version of iOS that the iPhone got left on. For example, the 10-year-old iPhone 6S just got a security update back in March for iOS 15. So older iPhones continue to be usable and are maintained with the latest security updates for a good several years after they get cut from major iOS updates, even though they get cut off from getting any new features. The XS Max has a 3,174 mAh battery, and it provided great battery life back when the phone launched in 2018. But here in 2025, where the XS Max is coming up on 7 years old, most XS Maxes circulating have considerable battery degradation, which will significantly impact battery performance. This is just the inevitable reality with any older phone. Batteries degrade over time. So if you're planning on buying a used XS Max, or any used iPhone for that matter, make sure it has a minimum battery capacity of around 85% or higher, as if you get an iPhone with a lower battery health than that, you're already going to be starting off with significantly worse battery performance in comparison to when the device was new. So as of right now, you can get a used XS Max for around $190 to $210 US. And even though it's still holding up quite well, all things considered, I don't recommend buying one anymore in 2025, as you'd be investing in an iPhone that doesn't have much of a future for major iOS updates, especially considering you could get much newer and better iPhones for the same cost in the used market, like the iPhone 12, which you can also get for around $200 USD used. It has a 2 generations newer and more powerful A14 chip that'll get at least 1 more year of major iOS updates, probably 2, in addition to its more modern design, MagSafe support, and more. It does have a smaller 6.1-inch display instead of the XS Max's 6.5-inch display, but I think the number of benefits the iPhone 12 has over the iPhone XS Max make it a much better buy in 2025 if you're in the market for a used iPhone in this price range. This being said though, if you're currently using a XS Max, it's a fine iPhone to hold on to for another year or so. I certainly hope the XS Max gets iOS 19, but I highly doubt it. But if it does get iOS 19, it'll be the longest supported iPhone of all time at 8 years. Again, the current record for maximum amount of years of iOS update support that an iPhone has ever had is held by the 6S, the 10R, and the 10S series here, with 7 years of major iOS update support so far. But anyways, let me know your thoughts on the XS Max in 2025 in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and of course, as always, I'll catch you in the next one.